Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into the fascinating and rapidly developing world of the Russian electric vehicle market. Today, we're unpacking the exact data on how different EV models handle, well, literally one of the most extreme climates on Earth. If you've ever wondered what actually happens to battery tech when temperatures absolutely plummet and driving distances stretch out forever, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get into it.
Here's how we're going to break down this frosty frontier today. We'll start off with the macro landscape, then move right into the premium powerhouses. After that, we'll check out the city commuters, look at some new faces and domestic models, and finally wrap it all up with the challenges and the future.
All right, Section 1, the macro landscape. Let's zoom out and look at the highly unique environment these vehicles are actually operating in.
There's this massive tug-of-war happening in this developing market right now. On one hand, you've got undeniable advantages, right? Zero tailpipe emissions and significantly lower servicing needs. Because, let's be real, not dealing with frozen oil changes in sub-zero weather, that is a massive perk. But the challenges are pretty formidable. Buyers are facing higher upfront prices, a very limited charging network spread across vast geographical distances, and of course, the ultimate enemy of any battery cell, reduced range in the extreme cold. It's truly a landscape of extremes.
Moving on to Section 2, the premium powerhouses. Let's see exactly how the high-end market tackles these brutal climate obstacles head-on.
When we stack the top-tier contenders up against each other, the numbers are pretty striking. Take the Chinese luxury EV, the Zeekr 001. It boasts a massive 620-kilometer claimed WLTP range. That's the European standard for testing, by the way. And right on its heels is the wildly popular Tesla Model Y long-range, all-wheel drive, sitting at a claimed 510 kilometers. So on paper anyway, both look like they've got plenty of juice to get you across the frozen tundra.
But here's the crucial point. What happens when winter actually hits? Well, that 510-kilometer claim for the Tesla, it drops closer to 400 kilometers in real-world cold weather conditions. This is an absolutely vital takeaway if you're studying EV adoption in cold climates. Advertised range is rarely the winter reality. The battery simply has to burn a massive amount of its own energy just to keep itself and you in the cabin warm.
Despite that range drop, though, the Tesla Model Y still offers a massive 854 liters of cargo space. To put that into perspective, that extreme practicality is exactly why it remains such a highly popular choice for buyers in Russia. When you combine that family-friendly space with a real-world range that honestly still holds up really well against the competition, plus a strong charging network and those frequent software updates, it absolutely remains a dominant force.
Now, power is another crucial factor here. The Zeekr 001 cranks out an astonishing 700 newton-meters of torque. This just goes to show that navigating a tough, icy climate doesn't mean you have to compromise on extreme performance. Its all-wheel drive system, combined with that kind of raw power, makes it an incredibly formidable vehicle on slick, wintry roads.
So, what are the trade-offs for the Zeekr? Well, a key survival trait for this vehicle is its battery preconditioning. This is a total game changer. It essentially preps the battery to charge efficiently, even in the dead of winter. Plus, its 800-volt architecture allows for super rapid 15-minute charges. However, you do have to weigh that incredible tech against a higher purchase price and a service network that's really only limited to major cities right now. If you break down out in the countryside, you might be waiting quite a while.
All right, Section 3, City Commuters. We're shifting gears here to look at budget and mid-range options. These are the cars that prioritize everyday urban practicality over massive cross-country range.
Let's just compare our three urban contenders side by side. First up, we've got the Nissan Leaf AC. It's extremely popular on the second-hand market, giving you about 270 kilometers of range and a surprisingly peppy 7.9 seconds 0 to 100 time. Next, the compact Renault Zoe. It stretches the range out to 395 kilometers, though it definitely sacrifices acceleration, taking 11.4 seconds to hit 100. And finally, the mid-range Volkswagen ID.3 Pro.
This one strikes a really solid middle ground, offering 425 kilometers of range and 170 horsepower.
However, the reality of a budget means you're going to have to make some compromises. The most glaring issue here is with the incredibly affordable Nissan Leaf. It doesn't have a battery thermal management system. In a brutal Russian winter, your battery is basically at the complete mercy of the elements, which drastically impacts both performance and charging speeds. Then you have the VW ID.3 Pro, which gives you modern comfort, sure, but it suffers from a significantly reduced effective range in the snow. And the Renault Zoe, while it's fantastic for tight city streets, it just lacks that overall performance punch. Ultimately, you're trading winter resilience for a much lower entry price.
Moving to Section 4, New Faces and Domestic Models. Let's examine how the newer entrants are actually adapting to this highly unique market.
First up is the Chinese-derived Aura Haomao. Now, this car brings a highly attractive, retro-inspired crossover design to the table, and it pairs that with a pretty respectable 400 to 501-kilometer range, depending on the battery you get. But buyers here have to navigate a major limitation for snowy climates. It's front-wheel drive only. That, combined with a pretty limited brand presence and service network right now, makes it a really stylish, but honestly, slightly risky choice for rural winter driving.
Meanwhile, we're seeing localization in action with a domestic response. The Russian-assembled Embraer A5 boasts specific cold climate features built right into the design. It also has an impressive 520-kilometer claimed CLTC range. Though, keep in mind the Chinese CLTC standard does tend to be a little more optimistic than your real-world winter driving. But it's designed specifically for this exact environment. We do have to remember, though, it's a relatively new vehicle on the market, so its long-term reliability is still unproven and it isn't widely available everywhere just yet.
Finally, Section 5, Challenges and the Future. Let's wrap up and summarize exactly where this unique automotive landscape is heading.
We really have to keep the scale of this market in perspective. While EV adoption is undeniably growing, the market here is still so much smaller than what we see in Western countries. And the reasons? Well, they're exactly what we've been exploring today. You have these significant infrastructure gaps, meaning literally not enough charging stations across a massive country, and of course those severe climate challenges that actively work against battery efficiency.
So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to end our explainer today. We've seen models boasting battery preconditioning, advanced 800-volt architectures, and localized cold weather designs. As the charging infrastructure inevitably grows and as battery tech continues to adapt and evolve, can EVs truly conquer the extreme cold once and for all? It's an engineering race that is absolutely thrilling to watch unfold. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope this gave you a clear, realistic look into what it actually takes to drive electric in the deep freeze.